And then I just sat and I thought, well, I don't expect someone's Nigerian grandmother to necessarily know what a hamburger is. And it's just like audience is so important. Like what is meaningful to one group of people is just like maybe wildly let out of left field and completely comprehensible to the next. And it's just like really figuring out like who you're trying to communicate to and doing it effectively enough.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Philly Made podcast, the podcast where we share our fellow Philly friends' story in the business world. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with Mira from Cloud Vertex. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here and so wonderful to meet you.
I really appreciate it. It's lovely to meet you too. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, your work, and how you kind of got to this point in your career and kind of like what inspired you on the way up?
Yeah. So I had a kind of early start to my career. I started doing like client website work around age 15, like WordPress work.
Oh my God,
Um,
that's so early.
yeah, I kind of fell into a cool internship with the school district of Philadelphia, and they like kind of jump started me, which was really awesome. And I've always been super grateful for that. Uh, and I actually started doing UX design for my clients because I had noticed I'd be doing like regular WordPress work or like changing something on their site. And I would just notice, like, hey, if you improve this thing aesthetically or maybe change the layout like this, it might make it easier for people to buy stuff, or it might make it easier for people to find a certain piece of information that you really want them to have for marketing reasons. And I started doing that before the term UX was coined. And then once someone like walked into my co-working space talking about like this new crazy concept. This is like early 2010s. It might have even been 2010. Um, and they were just describing like exactly what I do all day. And I was like, there's a word for it. That's awesome. And then I actually started the Philadelphia Sketch meetup because at the time, Sketch was the only thing that wasn't Photoshop, and it was the only thing that was made for UI and UX. And so I was like, oh man, I don't have to deal with all the like bells and whistles of Photoshop. I'm like all in, sign me up immediately. And so I kind of became like a sketch expert. Um, and like that was kind of wild because I didn't expect to be like a domain expert in like anything, let alone like almost like I don't know if at the time there was anyone in the world who was doing crazier sketch automation than me. I was doing like weirdly technical stuff. Like I always was doing design, but I was always doing like very technical design stuff. So I came up with like before either was even sketch plugins, I came up with this very convoluted system to make it so that like you could basically have like components and like sets of styles and like groupings and stuff like before that all existed. And then like I've always kind of integrated that kind of thinking into like also coding as well. I kind of became a generalist because I would work on teams and I would be like the weird like glue liaison between like dev and design because I kind of spoke both languages because I ended up like loving code and then like also having like an eye for design. So I kept kind of getting stuck with design work almost because like the other developers on the team would like not want to pick it up and I'd be like kind of like the one person who kind of knew Photoshop. And they'd be like, hey, it's your time to shine.
Well, it's helpful to like be in that between space so that you can help translate and then also kind of pick up whatever is not working for other teams.
Yeah. Like I would often have to be the one person that like a developer would have like a very grumpy complaint sesh to, and then I would have to like go and sit a design person down and very much gentler and much more professionally say like, hey, we can't really code this very easily. We need to make it in like a grid system or uh like oh, did I just
No, you're good.
hit okay, I thought I might have just hit my headphones off
No
for a
worries.
second. Um yeah, I was often like or I was often like the person to explain to a developer, like, okay, I know it's super annoying to put this gradient on this piece of text right here. And it maybe breaks the whole front end framework a little bit, but like it's really important for this aesthetic, like a whole thing to come together. Like I would like be kind of like advocating both ways. Um, and that was a really interesting spot to be. And I kind of added a lot of value to teams that way, with clients. Like I would end up like just working on like different teams and different companies. Like I started out doing like local like WordPress sites for like my local pizza shop, or like um I did some like volunteer work for Philly Mural Arts. I made like an environmental science WordPress site and like helped them with their mural and stuff.
At
Uh,
Philadelphia Mural Arts. I used to work with them when I worked with a nonprofit in college. It's such a great.
oh, they are the best.
I really appreciate them. But yeah, so keep going. You
Was so yeah, so I was running the Philly sketch meetup, so I kind of had like people just like float in from like off the street into my co-working space in Old City in Philadelphia, and just like they would ask me literally any questions about sketch and I would know the answer because I was that nerd. And like a lot of the times I wouldn't even have a talk planned. I would just like end up elaborating on whatever the first person who asked me a complicated question was for like an hour. Um, and like a lot of people thought it was fun to like get together and like work on their projects at the meetup and like swap ideas or like get a second set of eyes, and like that was like a really cool thing. Um and I kind of fell away from doing sketch stuff because honestly Figma got to be really really good. And I got to the point where like Figma like what it did that honestly was the thing that got that lured me away from sketch work was it outputted really nice code snippets, specifically just like gradients for CSS. If you've ever had to like write gradients for CSS, like it's terrible if you have to do it like over and over and over again. And like using it for like that kind of thing, and also the plugin community was like really really cool. So it's like so I really liked the Figma plugin community, and it kind of kept me like right in the center of like design and dev too, to like be in that space, which was really cool. Um, and so I kind of just ended up getting more and more higher uh profile clients, I guess. Um, until like I ended up working with like Fortune 100 companies, or like unicorn startups a couple of times. And it it went from like very chill to at times like just really wild. Like um, the startup wanted something yesterday that doesn't necessarily exist, and it's like just fun stuff like that. And like,
Oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, do you have a preference? Like, do you miss working with your kind of local businesses, or do you kind of like those fast-paced, really heavy schedule kind of things?
Um, Honestly, I think I might be a little warped from agency life because it's always like really really busy, or it's a lull a lot of the time. I feel like it's a different flavor of work with each client though. I really really like working for like medical tech clients that are like doing interesting stuff. Like one time I worked on this app that was this like HIPAA compliant Slack for like people to be able to communicate with their doctor directly. And this was like basically when maybe telehealth had like just come out, or like was very new. Um, and I just liked interesting stuff like that. Or there was this one person who had an app for like chronic pain management, and her company was just like they wanted to just gather data to try and see like how they could help chronic pain patients like map and manage their symptoms. And that was really cool. Um, And then there was just like super fun startups. Like I ended up working for Pay on their website. And like this was like right when blockchain had like just begun. And it was very, very fun to almost not know what their company was about all the time because I was like, please someone explain and blockchain was like and when I got a few blockchain startup clients, that was just wild because it's really mathy. You get like mathy when you're trying to like understand it. And I definitely didn't need to super understand it as like the person who was doing the UX for the website, but I also wanted to like understand it so that I could make a website that was better than everybody else's. Because if I was like, if I can really effectively convey this information, then everybody else's website sucks because they have not.
No, that makes
Mm.
complete sense. So for okay, so this is something that I like to ask people that do website design specifically is, so if you had to choose, what do you think is more important for creating website? Design quality or the content itself? Like clear content or quality design? If like you have to sacrifice one for the other.
I think clear content. I think clear content is king.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no one yeah. Like no one's gonna show up to a beautiful empty ballroom for a party. Like
Yeah, I guess that's a really good analogy. Yeah, I think it really depends because of course, like if you have a really confusing method or you don't have enough information, then not people might just click off of your website. But I think there's also a testament to kind of gimmicks because sometimes I will go on a website and I'll find it really attractive and I'll want to learn more, and maybe their message is like a little confusing, but I might email someone to ask for more information because I'm so in awe of their website. But at the same time, I think the average user, and me as well, sometimes get frustrated when I don't understand the point of a website or why it exists or what they're trying to give me or what it may be. So I think content is really, really key for that, obviously.
yeah. Yeah, like for example, like this is a really funny one. I ended up working with a bunch of like local Philadelphia like home healthcare agencies. They ended up being like a very non-technical insular group. So I had one client and he just referred me to literally all of them. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's just what I'm doing right now for like a couple of years. And I had this one client and he had more elderly patients. And I was trying to, and there was like he and many of his company employees were from different African countries, and there was a large language barrier. So I ended up actually just like deciding to go on site and just like take the trip to their office and like sort out all the details in person and like figure out like what their needs really were, like how to best like communicate with the people who actually need to use their website. Like I was just like, what languages do I need to translate these into? Is it even like a language that's standard in Google Translate yet? Like all this, lots of questions. And like the one thing, it was super simple that was like messing with his users' ability to use their website was that we discovered that his elderly patients literally didn't know what the hamburger menu on mobile meant. They had no idea. They were like, there's no buttons on your website, sir. You can't use it. And all it took was replacing that with the word menu as the button, and it just like magically everything was fine.
I love little miscommunications like that because you think things are self-explanatory for yourself, but you don't process that if you're catering to a specific population that they don't understand that concept, or maybe it's really important to know your audience, but I think it's really hard sometimes when you look at something over and over again and you don't see
Yeah.
art.
And I had lipstick on my teeth. Oh no.
My
Uh-huh.
eyesight's so bad and I have the window so small, I would have told you.
Oh, so I think it just happened. Nobody saw that. Oh man. But yeah, the other thing about that was it was a very American concept. The hamburger menu, I realized. It's like, well, And then I just sat and I thought, well, I don't expect someone's Nigerian grandmother to necessarily know what a hamburger is. Like,
Fair.
and it's just like audience is so important. Like, what is meaningful to one group of people is just like maybe wildly let out of left field and completely uncomprehensible to the next. And it's just like really figuring out like who you're trying to communicate to and doing it effectively enough.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people have a difficult time with that because they're looking at it in the lens of themselves and not in the lens of their customers, which I think is something that's really hard to get out of your head with because you're just trying to perfect something, especially if you're the one that's looking at it or you're the one that is trying to perfect it and it's yours. And it's like everyone wants to make it perfect in their eyes, but at the same time, what works for you might not work for your audience. You have to keep your audience in mind and who's frequenting your website the most. And I think that's a difficult mindset to have people hone in on sometimes, especially when it's like it's your baby and it's hard to do something that maybe you don't like but other people would have an easier time with.
Yeah, and I think the other strange phenomenon about that with like especially like people who are doing um like mid-tier software projects, like if they had like just a mid level business, they may not necessarily know about the extremely intricate multivariable testing that goes on with the common platforms that they use or that their experience might be so much more tailored than they think it is. And they think, oh, well, if this big company's doing it for everybody, and I'm using it, like I know what it's about. I know what's what, and it's like that is another level of abstraction that exists now that didn't necessarily exist in the internet like 7, 8 years ago. At least not at this scale, for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are just that kind of just go over people's heads because they're kind of either looking at their competitors and they're like, okay, this is working for them or this is what they're doing. So now I'm going to do that. Or like they look for inspiration everywhere, but sometimes it's not for them. Like sometimes, even if you're doing something similar to someone else, it's just not something that's going to work out for you. And it's okay because everything can be done differently. And I think a lot of people are just constantly looking for the next thing or what's going to work better. And so they're not focusing on, their target audience as much as they're just focusing on experimenting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, especially for like online businesses right now, because, and I hate to say this dirty word, AI has made things so wild. It's gotten to the point where I'm kind of like seeing that if you're like tons and tons of niches are emerging that just were never a thing before, but it's also a thing where like categories are getting just smaller and smaller because like you have to basically be the best at whatever the thing is to get customers in a category for the most part. And that's becoming more and more the case. But like it's also becoming more and more the case that you can do something unique and people are into it and you have an audience that you didn't know necessarily existed.
I do see that with niching a lot. That's something that comes up a lot with different agencies that come on the podcast is I've seen very, very specific niches that I didn't even know there would be a market for to be that specific. And I think it's so interesting to learn about. I had someone that did marketing for plumbers specifically, and I thought that was really interesting. It was also fun because he does like comedic advertising for them, and it's solely comedic. So it's not, he doesn't do any serious advertising, which I really liked because it was just unique and fun. But it's so I think it's really something to say about how agencies have evolved because I think a lot of full service marketing agencies will not narrow themselves down. In the past, I think that's probably like maybe the majority were narrowing themselves down because there was not enough to do that. So everyone was just covering whatever. But now there's very specified niches that are so small that you feel like there might not be an audience for it, but there is because you're getting clients. So it's just yeah, I guess people do want an expert, especially when they're worried that people might cut corners because they're like a larger agency or they're doing too much. It's like the analogy of maybe when you go to a restaurant and their menu is like 12 pages and you're like, you can't be making all of this food really good. Oh, but I think there's also, it doesn't mean that just because someone is offering more services doesn't mean they're not doing good work for all of them. Maybe they're just very good at individualizing each case and each campaign. Um, but I don't know, I've heard arguments for both sides of whether niching down is a better idea or not. And I think some people on one side who don't argue against niching down is that, we get bored. Like there is, if we're in one field so long, life can be boring when we're doing the same thing over and over again. Where other people might argue, no, it's like really great to be an expert in a field because we know so much about it, and we chose this field because we do have fun doing it, and that's why uh even though it can be repetitive, maybe we try to make it unique for each person, so it's still fun for us because we chose this niche specifically because it was for us and our agency, and
Yeah.
that's what we have fun with.
Yeah, like, I also see and it's funny because at the same time, there's this duality to it, right? There's, like you're seeing, like, all these different niches emerge and, like, this, diversity of ideas that just didn't happen before, but also there's, like, this strange thing where, like, a lot of industries are going very monolithic to kinda survive, yeah, like grocery stores, for example, like you don't really go to a grocery store that's not part of a huge corporation. Or like if you wear clothes as a human, any fashion brand that you wear, like even like the cheap ones, they're kind of all owned by the same companies. Um, or like your dating site, like it's probably owned by literally one company. Like, there's just so many areas where it's gone, like, the full opposite too, which is interesting, and I wonder what and it kinda makes you think about what the characteristics of that, of a thing would be to make it, like, need to be more of, like, a huge group effort, like, or something that could be, like, individualized, or I wonder if it's really just up to what humans decide to do, it could just be us being illogical, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it really depends because I think there is almost a market for anything, for lack of better phrasing. Like, I think that unless you're doing bad work, I think that you're likely to get business, but I think that it kind of people argue where you're going to get more business. And so especially when there's an overarching uh what's the phrasing I'm looking for? I guess company that owns all of these things that are similar and just slightly different. Like I don't even the dating app thing. You mentioned that. Do you know it? Is there one conglomerate that owns all the dating apps? Because I'm also so curious about that.
Literally, okay, this book is literally sitting on my shelf behind me. It's called Dataclysm. It was and this may anger many people. But one of the first things you learn when you start to read this book is A, yes, they are all owned by the same company.
So thank you for that. I love books.
B, none of those people have ever used one of the services, which is bananas to me.
Not shocking to me, to be honest. I That's not shocking to me at all. Like if they did, they'd definitely change them. That's so interesting. Wow, okay, well, thank you for the book recommendation. That's like, I never get those, and I love books. Okay, well, anyway, I will look into that because that's so interesting. It's also interesting because two of my best friends met their significant others on dating apps and have been dating them for like 4 years. That is insane. Like, I see sorry, that just like got me in a loop. But that's so interesting because I love and hate finding out stuff like that, especially like, oh, the four companies in the US that own all of our industries. Or that or those whatever. It's like finding out stuff like that is so horrific, but it's really interesting because you just know like, okay, this is why everything works out the way it does because it's all run by this one person. Eh.
Yeah, it like makes you want to go outside out of spite almost.
No, it's true. Yeah, exactly. And it's like let's not gift these people, but also like everyone's using their services, so it's not like we're dismantling them by like choosing not to participate in them all the time. Boycotting works only on a grand scale. It's unfortunate.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like sometimes you can't, like with medical care and stuff.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. We are living in the United States. So, okay, we're gonna play a little game because we just talked about something negative and we're gonna be fun now. So,
I love that rule.
yay, okay, that's my favorite thing to do. Okay. So, because we're doing the Philly Made podcast, we have questions about Philly. So, this isn't a quiz, this is an opinion based. So don't worry, you're not being tested. Okay, so I'm just gonna ask you some things about Philly and you tell me what you feel about them. Okay, so what's the first word that you think of when you hear Philadelphia?
Liberty Bell, unfortunately, even as a native. Yeah.
No, everyone says something really basic. If it makes you feel any better, like it's Rocky, it's like hats or Genos or something like that, so it's fine. Don't even worry. But yeah, my sister actually got married in the Liberty Bell Center, so
Oh wow.
nice there. So yeah, so don't worry. I have fond memories of the Liberty Bell. Never had to visit it on a school trip though. That sounds so boring.
Oh man. My aunt took me there when I was 5 once, and she just wanted me to touch it because she knew I wouldn't get in trouble as a 5-year-old, and I did. Touched. So awesome.
Oh my god, it sounds like something my mom would tell me to do. I would be like, okay, you won't get in trouble, so can you do it? It's like, it's a little rest.
Chaotic.
Did you not get in trouble? Did you do it?
Oh, I did not get in trouble.
That's awesome. Oh my god. Wow. Okay. What did it feel like?
It was very cold and very metal,
Naturally.
and felt super old, and it felt like I shouldn't be touching it.
Makes sense. Okay, well,
You'll just was the Liberty Bell kid.
don't touch the Liberty Bell. As anyone listening, don't do it. This was a lesson to be learned. Okay. Even though no consequences were happening. That feels like a federal crime.
Probably could be.
Don't even worry.
News about this.
Start watching this. It's okay. I don't figure first. Okay. What celebrity do you think of when you think of Philadelphia?
Oh, Rocky. It's always Rocky. Cause I don't know. Oh, at Will Smith. Will Smith.
We get a Will Smith.
Yeah.
And we get a Rocky. And like we get Always Sunny character. Okay, I'm so bad with names, so I can't remember any of their names. But
Every time I travel to another city for like a tech conference for work, somebody after the tech conference at the bar always mentions It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I have like PTSD flashbacks to my actual life.
oh my god, that's so funny. No, you can never escape it here, even though they've only filmed like one episode actually in Philadelphia, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my god.
I also normally there might be like clips, but I'm pretty sure I heard that somewhere. I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure. And they do have the bar that's is the Happy Birthday bar, I think, in South Philly. Is the one that's featured in there, but I'm not sure. Anyway, favorite cheesesteak spot.
This is okay. So honestly, this is gonna be a weird out of left field one, but I feel like I won't get Philly native points dinged. The the pretzel factory, the pretzels that are stuffed with the cheesesteak. That is my favorite of all time. I haven't even seen them around very often recently. I don't know if they stopped making them, but they were like the literal best.
That sounds so good. I have never heard of that. That sounds so good. I'll have to look it up. Well, I hope they still make them. Yeah, they just closed my favorite restaurant in Philly, and it makes me really sad.
Oh no, what is that?
Have you ever been to Bing Bang Dim Sum in South Philly?
I think I have.
They closed it like a couple months ago. It made me cry, but it's okay. I've been going there for 10 years. Since my sister moved to Philly, it's weird. Don't even worry. Anyway, what's one small business that you frequent the most?
Small business in Philly that I would frequent the most. Philly AIDS Thrift
I
is
love
definitely that one.
I love it there. I used to work at Lorenzo and Sons
Oh,
in college, so I was always like right on the street from there. I love it there. It's really nice. And it's a nice thrift store. Sometimes
yeah.
they're not so nice. That's it. Oh, not Philly AIDS Thrift, just like the stores in general. That one's great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they can be a little, but that one's excellent.
hmm So, okay. Favorite place for a drink or a meal?
Favorite place for a drink or a meal? For a drink, there's this place near me called The Cage. That's kind of cool. It's like bird cage themed where everything is inside of a bird cage. Um,
I'm writing this down.
for a meal, I'm trying to think of restaurants that are like really good, that are like local, that aren't chains.
It's okay.
Dim Sum Garden in Chinatown.
Yes. Love Dim Sum Garden. I used to get order from there when I was in college all the time. Oh my gosh.
Great soup dumplings.
Oh my god, I love soup dumplings. They had some so good at Bing Bing. It's okay. Maybe we'll open it again in another life. We think about it all the time. Okay, lastly, what is your favorite neighborhood in Philly?
Oh man, that's a tough one because I'm like a weird one in Philly where I've lived in like a lot of different neighborhoods, which is like unusual. Most people like pick one.
No, I've done the same thing.
Yeah, I really, really liked West Philly, I think. Yeah, like I really like the old houses and like Clark Park and like University City. And like it's like kind of out of the city, but like you still have like direct access.
Yeah. No, I lived there for a brief period of time too. I've also lived all over Philly. I think the one place I haven't lived is Fishtown, which is interesting. But everywhere else. Everywhere else and Center City because who can afford to live there? But yeah. Yeah, but yeah, no, West Philly was really nice. I really liked there was a bunch of nice coffee shops there. So many good coffee shops. I'm still looking for a good one here. I'm in many on Crate now, but
Oh, nice.
this is all the time we have today. But well, thank you so much for answering the Philly questions too. That's my favorite part. I think it's so fun. And I get recommendations. So that's the best. But thank you so much. This is actually incredible. And this is a really great experience. I love learning during the podcast. So that was also a really fun part. Thank you so much. And the book recommendation. I love a book recommendation. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And now I'll empty my pockets for more books.
Oh my god. Well, thank you so much for having me on. This is really, really fun and lovely. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. And everyone watching or listening, please don't forget to like and subscribe to see more stories like this, our Philly favorites. Thank you so much.